All right, so all this month I want to uh, do urban sketching in class. This is a topic that we've not done entirely as urban sketching in a long time at least. I have done smatterings of it all over. We've done buildings, we've done how to paint water, how to paint people, a little bit of perspective study and all of that. But we've not really paid attention to all of urban sketching. So, at the outset, I'd just like to explain what urban sketching is all about. So, this is not like you make paintings of landscapes. There's a slight difference between the two. So, when you see paintings of landscapes, they are almost formal paintings of if there could be buildings in that, there could be cityscapes. These are paintings. They are meant to be put up in places, maybe as used as posters or whatever. Urban sketching is actually defined just as that. It is sketching. It has a certain level of casual engagement, and it is in the urban setting. So if you make say a kiosk, or like a food stall, or maybe even a monument or something, you can make it less formal than a painting. So this reduces the pressure on us for just the expectation. You're not expected to make every detail. What you are expected to do is to make a pictorial documentation of you in that place. So it's not going to be something that, I mean, it can be as detailed as you want, or it can be as vague as you want, because this is a place where we want you to, or the expectation from urban sketching is for us to create some expression of our experience in that place. So, the where it differs from a proper painting is that here the theme evolves while you are on location. If there are people there, you will draw people. If there are animals walking about, you'll draw those animals. Um, then there could be a lot of clutter in the picture, like there will be wires, there will be whatever an urban setting gives you, and all of that is a choice that you can put in your pictures. We are not necessarily making them pretty conventionally, but the illustration can look beautiful with all these elements in. So I'm going to try and give you different types of urban settings to illustrate. But before we get there, I want to do some exercises in perspective drawing. This is the one place where a lot of people get confused and fumble quite a bit. So we are going to do a few sketches in which I'm going to show you how to observe three-dimensional objects in space, and we are going to apply that to some of the pictures that I have shared on the group and try to recreate those pictures using the guidelines of perspective. Often I tell the class not to get too bogged down by perspective, but sooner or later you need to tame this beast. It's not going to be it's not as confusing as you might believe it to be if you just trust the process and believe in the lines that you're making. As you start sketching, as we start filling in spaces, you will start seeing that three dimension. And from there, it'll be a quick leap to making that shape into a building. Okay, so for this, I might use a bunch of different more and more paper. So what I'm going to suggest is if you have a book, you can just use the back of previous pages to practice these shapes. We'll start off with a new page first so I can explain certain fundamentals, and then we will do some exercises on the previous pages. Right. So to begin with, we have to Just 1 second, please. Okay, so the first thing to address is the terminology. I think I'll just go ahead and use a pen. And the terminology is only for me to help me address lines without saying this line and that line. Okay, so first we have the horizon line. The horizon line changes according to your eye level. So this is literally your eyes. If your eyes are very close to the ground, the horizon line is very low with respect to the objects that you see. So all the objects will be above the horizon line. If your eye line is really high, then all the objects you see will be below the horizon line. So I want to show you what this means. Let's start off with one single point in the center, from where we will draw two lines towards the right, going to the top of the horizon line. And on this line, we will draw a square. So I'm making a line touching 2 points on, say, line 1 and line 2. And from there, just drop two vertical parallel lines and make a square out of that. From these 2 points, I will make two more lines go back to this point, which incidentally is the vanishing point. This is where everything vanishes. All the lines vanish and all the objects vanish as well. This is just on the tip of the horizon line. Now, these lines, which are perspective lines, one and two, and then 3 and 4, are guidelines that help you to plot the next lines. So you have guidelines, and you plot a point on these guidelines. So it can be a point and then it can be a line. So some distance away from where we started the square, on line 1, but going towards the vanishing point, plot a point, and from there drop a parallel line that goes all the way to line number 3. Now this, if we join these lines here, will create a surface. So we have two surfaces, one surface that is facing towards the viewer, one surface that is on the left of that first surface, and then we have the bottom. So the point that we have marked on line 3, from there if we draw a horizontal line, just draw a horizontal line touching line 4. This will give us the next face. Now I'm going to use color pencils to color in all these faces so that you can start seeing the three-dimensional reality or illusion. Sorry, that's not reality. So this is one side, this is another side. And this is the third side. And you can ignore these guidelines. Okay, now we are going to repeat this process on the left. And this time I'm going to use a pencil because we are going to erase some lines. So let's repeat this. From the vanishing point, let's draw a line going up, and next to that another line going up. Draw a horizontal line between the two. This part we can draw in pen. Okay, my second line is curving a little bit. That's not good. That will give us a false perspective. So I want to straighten this line. From here, I will make 2 vertical lines and 1 horizontal to create a square. From these 2 bottom points, I happen to have one line going already. That was the curved line is going from there just by accident. And then my 4th line. And now I'm going to join one point from here, the first line.
Aditya,
Down.
can you explain that curved line step which we missed?
Sorry?
The curved line.
Mm-hmm. No, that was a mistake. So I just straightened it out.
Okay.
And
So
it so happened that the
now
next
this line
line,
three, can you explain? Okay, I got it. You
it's,
just
yeah, it
joined this
just goes from
corner.
the bottom point.
ठीक है.
Yeah, let me just remove this. And then from here, sometimes it gets confusing how you draw this line. And a lot of people draw it at an angle. Make it parallel to the bottom of the square. Just, it looks very odd, but do make it parallel. And then just join all these edges. And now if I erase the lines that go through all these surfaces, I will get a three-dimensional object. Okay? Now when you look at this object, you can see the bottom of the object and one side. And it is above the horizon line, which means that you are standing somewhere over here, like this. And this object is flying over your head, and so is this one. So your eye line is the point which gives you a perspective. That's why I really enjoy how perspective works. If you want to change your perspective, you have to change your eye line. So normally we do not see too many things up here in the sky, except when you are maybe on the street. At that time, you will suddenly see buildings that go up, but they don't end on the horizon line. These buildings will come onto the street, which is below you, which is below your eye line, which means that we have these perspective lines also active below the horizon line. So on the right, I'm going to try and make one more object. Sorry. Over here. So I'm drawing that horizontal line. But before I draw a box out of it, I'm going to draw another perspective line first. And on this perspective line, I'm going to plot another line. So now we've got two sides. We do not have to draw the third and fourth side if our object is coming ahead. And this is where we can draw the last surface. Now we need a perspective line over here, or you just project one line going towards the fourth point and the other line coming towards the bottom, and the intersection of those lines will give you the point at which place the object will make sense. So we drew these two from the front surface towards the back, and this one from the back surface, which we cannot see, towards the front. Now this object we are seeing from the top because our eye line is above the object. The horizon line is above the object. Okay, are you able to get this? Are you able to see this? Now on the left side, instead of making a rectangular object, let's see what happens to a circle. So if we want to make a line, a circular object along this edge, this is what we do. Let's make a circle across this diameter, more or less. So you don't have to be concerned with the perspective lines. Just draw a plain circle, flat facing towards us. Now, a circle, when it's elongated and made into 3D, is going to become a cylinder. And on this circle, the perspective lines are active on excuse me, every point of the object. And at some point, they will connect on the tangent, and that is the point which will give you the line or the point from where you can plot a line towards the vanishing point. And here now you have to see how you can recreate the same circular or part of that circle towards the bottom or towards the back. So we are going to just make a line that, or a curve that is parallel to this part of the circle, just the right and top. Okay, are you able to see this? Are you able to see the 3D in this?
It's so interesting, na? It's only lines, but they make it look 3D.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem often comes when you are not able to see this as 3D.
Hmm.
And when we make things on paper, often the mistake that is made is, like, even if I've seen this happen even when studying 3D, don't draw this. I'm just showing this to you. So when you draw an object like this and you have a vanishing point and everything, you often get the vertical part fine. But this is very close. So I've seen people do this
Hmm.
because that last bit is very confusing. So when you say no, just draw it parallel, and I have gone through this myself. So when you draw parallel, you say, but there's hardly anything over here. To which the answer is yes, there will be some points at which you will hardly see any surface area at all. But that is true perspective. Okay, now the third place that we have to make the object is across the horizon line. So now let's try making it like this. Make your square or rectangle at this point, both are fine, and connect all the points to the vanishing point. You will notice that the further edges go through the object and through the inside of this triangle created by the first points, which means that that surface is not going to be visible at all. So all you can do is draw some lines on the first two vanishing lines or perspective lines and create a surface, which means that in this object you can only see two surfaces. You cannot see the remaining four surfaces. You have a surface on top and bottom, on the left and in the back. You will not see any of those. And usually this is what we get in urban sketching, because we are often at a street level, eye level. We have buildings that start off somewhere below our eye level and then they go up above our eye level. So this is the area in which we operate usually. And the horizon line becomes the critical point where all objects will rest. Now, for the next exercise, I want to build an imaginary cityscape. We'll start off with drawing with pencil, and then some lines we will make in pen, so that when we erase the pencil lines, the cityscape becomes more visible. Right, so let's start with our horizon line. We have a vanishing point in the center. And from here, let's draw a pair of lines, one going up, one coming to the bottom. Now let's make a rectangle. This is going to be a rather large rectangle. So the vertical and horizontal lines are at absolute 90 degrees to each other in this picture. Now we want to draw the already the vanishing points, or sorry, perspective lines can give us the guideline to make the left side of the structure. So let's go ahead and make that. So we have one structure standing. Now I can continue to make these on this vanishing on this pair of lines. So let's make a second rectangle. Part of it is going to get hidden by the first shape that we have created. And next to that, we will continue to obey the perspective lines. So the next block is visible. Okay, now let's do the same again. Now, as we go further and further closer to the vanishing point, this gap between the two structures should start reducing. So the next lines we make will become slightly closer. We could have done that over here as well. And further, making them closer, ad infinitum. Now let's use the pencil to shade all the surfaces that are facing the viewer. So what we have effectively created is some kind of Soviet era modern building structure, dry, drab.
It's called brutalist, I think, no?
Brutalist, yeah.
Very dystopian.
Yeah, in my opinion, pretty pointless, very depressing architecture, but it's a great way to learn perspective. Okay, now in all of these, suppose we want to add a door to go inside the building. Let's say our building is about maybe 3 stories tall. So you have uh, 1, 2, and 3. So 1, 2, 3. And we want to add something, uh, maybe just like a little molding to the top of this first and second story, just the line that demarcates it. Very simple. This is our main line, right? On the line, we have plot a point over here. Just draw a line from here going to the vanishing point. And this becomes their guideline for all the buildings to add that molding. And we can do the same thing over here as well. Vanishing point runs through all the buildings up to this point where we mark the second floor, and all of them will have the molding in the same place. Let's try. Now, how do you make this molding? We can just make a square again. It's very minuscule, so it won't really make a difference, but you can still plot a line using the same principles of the perspective line. And again, as you go further into the distance, everything starts becoming smaller and comes closer. And we repeat the same. Just make two lines protruding a little bit to accommodate that little square here. Now, in this space, let's say this is maybe 10 feet tall. We make a door that's about this tall. So, what do? Let's make the A line a little to the right of this small section here. This is the side of the door which is closer to us, closer to the viewer edge. So we've got a vertical line. We've got a bottom line which is on the same perspective line we've already drawn. We've got this point. What do? Join this point to the vanishing point. And literally all the heights of your doors become available. So you can make a door here like this. We are just making the frame, don't do anything on the inside. Now on the inside, we want to make it a little hollow. So let's make a horizontal line just here. So you get this little triangular space. Maybe you can also color that triangle black so that it can look hollow inside. Just the triangle, don't color the doorway. Now let's try making a window over here. Do you want to try it yourselves? I'm just going to let you do this yourselves. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Follow the same principle as the door. For the door, we already had the bottom defined. Here, you will draw a vertical line and define the bottom with this perspective line on the bottom and then on the top of that vertical line. I'm going to draw a big window because I really enjoy big windows.
So for the window, one is my vanishing line and the other is my horizon line.
Okay, yeah. So if even my window has come very close to the horizon line, so it's almost straight here. Yeah, that's okay. It just means that wherever you are, the line of the window is where your eyes are. So you are probably standing on something, or maybe you're on stairs from where you can see all the objects on at this level at your eye level.
And if my other line goes below the horizon line,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be like because I'm just bit confused that जो नीचे वाला line है, if it goes tilted like it's for the doorway, would it look good?
It's not about looking good. If your line is drawn over there, you have to follow it.
Okay.
It's very, very mechanical. This is like a the science of optics. You cannot mess with it. So a lot of times you will find yourself in a place where, or let me say the other way around. Looking at a picture, you can tell where the person is standing, from which point of view the picture has been made. So wherever you see the horizon line, that horizon line will tell you whether the person is standing high up or low. And you can see this clearly. Now, just let's look at this one picture, very famous. Okay, so now let's just examine this picture. Look at where the horizon line is visible. Can you see it? Did you see it here?
It's
So
the
if the horizon line is so high up and you see so much underneath or below that line, it's very possible that they are either up on a hill or on a very tall building on a hill. Otherwise, the horizon line would have been somewhere down here.
Aditi, I'm sorry, I'm confused. How do you identify where the horizon line is?
All right. So, wherever you see objects like these, you can look at where the object ends. Like you have mountains, you have buildings, fine. But you will have some places, you will have things like a field that goes into the distance. In this case, there seems to be a water body that's at a distance, and there's nothing beyond that but clouds. So that is your horizon line. That is one. Okay. Now, um, discard. If I were to take these objects, which we are going to come to soon, the horizon line is the point at which all the perspective lines become flat, become come to 0 degrees. So, where are the perspective lines active? You have these lines active at this point because you can see a slant here, right? You have the point, the lines active at this part of the illustration. But as you keep drawing more and more perspective lines, you notice that they all are becoming flatter and flatter. And the point at which they flatten out completely is your horizon line.
Right, got it. Okay.
So that is why when Ritika was making her window probably came all the way down to horizon line, and that's why all the bottoms of the windows were at this point. And it almost seems like there's something wrong. Why am I not getting an angle over here? Why is it becoming flat? Because you are drawing from the perspective of somebody who is that high up, whose eyes are that high up. So if this is, say, 10 feet and this is another 2 feet, your eyes are at the 12 feet level from wherever you are looking. It could be slightly at a slight height, you could probably be in another building at which you are 12 feet high, whatever it is. This is where your eyes are, and this is where all the perspective lines converge and become flat.
So it's easier to identify the horizon line
Mm-hmm.
for a urban kind of setting versus, let's say, the Mona Lisa kind of setting, right?
Not really. I mean, let me look at some other paintings also, and I'll demonstrate that. But before we do that, I'm just going to give you another exercise on the left hand side. Now, this time, what I want you to do is make a series of buildings which start out small, and the next building becomes slightly taller, and the one next to that becomes slightly taller, and see how far you can go. You can plot them on the same horizon line. I'm going to start you off with the first one because you will have to keep adding more um, perspective lines to this. So, say the first building is right in front of this building, somewhere here. Maybe let's bring it a little closer. So, I draw maybe a shop like that, starting off with this side. Then draw a perspective line going towards the vanishing point. Draw the right side, and I will draw a perspective line from the top, and I'll get a very, very flat edge there. This is my building 1. To plot the building next to that, like how we had made a vertical line right next to the first object, here again you will make a vertical line, but just make it taller. And just for this sake, I'm going to make it this tall, just above the horizon line. And complete whatever little bit of that rectangle you can complete. And you will draw the next part so that you can get the next surface. Okay? Try to complete these. Make maybe 2 more buildings like these next to these, going steadily taller, and you may want to add even more perspective lines to accommodate for the height of the newer buildings. And I'll look for some images to explain how to identify the horizon line.
I'm fully struggling with these buildings. I don't have anybody else's.
It's fine to struggle. um, it's the lines can get a little confusing, but just motor on through. If you find one part confusing, just abandon that and go to the next one and see what you can make. What we are first making is the surface that is pointing to us, and then the second surface over here. And you won't need to make this part for the remaining buildings.
I think what I struggle, as Palak said, I mean, it was easy to go from the bigger to smaller, but going from smaller to bigger is like, अच्छा कितना जाना है?
No, kitna jitna
Aditi,
bhi.
you're so fast with this big. I don't know what happened in the last bit. You lost us completely.
See, now the next building I'm making is this tall.
Okay, no, can we go back to the second building? Can you show us line by line?
Yeah, so you can make this the same thing that I'm doing here. You got the first block?
Like I fudged it, I didn't know the steps. Okay,
Okay.
let's go to block 2.
Okay. So let me just do this all over again. It's not a
Okay,
big deal. We have our horizon line, vanishing point. We will draw a line that comes to the bottom and just plot one point here, and on this point make a square or a rectangle. That's not important. To make this into 3D, what do we have to do? We take all these 4 apexes and we join them to the vanishing point. I'm not joining the last point because I know that it is going to be redundant and I just want to reduce the lines. But if you were to draw it, that would give you the surfaces that we are not going to be able to see through the solid. How do we make a solid out of this? Let's first plot the line across the two perspective lines corresponding to the this edge in the front. Okay, got this part? And then using the perspective lines, we complete that surface. That those perspective lines give us the edge. Then we have this empty space on top, right? So from this new apex that we have created, this new point, we will draw a line parallel to the top line of the square we have drawn. Keep it parallel. If you change that, that will go wrong. Even if it's a very small distance, it still needs to be parallel. And the second perspective line gives us the edge on the other side. So now we have a box ready. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Now we want to make something next to this box closer to the horizon. So on the vanishing point, let's call this the base. The perspective line which creates the base for all of these. From that or on that, let's draw a line that is tall. This is just the first edge that you draw. Okay, now we have to create a surface out of this. How do we create a surface? By just drawing one vertical and two horizontal lines, right? Wherever it comes on this object, it doesn't matter, because we are drawing the surface that is going to face the viewer. Don't worry about this edge at all. This is very easy. It's almost mechanical to draw it. Once we complete this rectangle, it gives us 2 points which need edges, and those edges are going to create surfaces. So join those points to the vanishing point with new perspective lines. We hadn't had, what am I saying? We didn't have to make those new perspective lines for the receding buildings, right? But here, because we have these 2 points which don't have any guidelines, we have to draw new perspective lines, and then again you can determine how long you want that edge or that object to be. Make a vertical line for the end of that object, edge based on the perspective line that you've just drawn. And in this case now, it just so happens that we have a very small surface right on top of the object. Now let's draw the third object. So it's a taller line. Complete this rectangle the same way. And I'm just going to do this once. I want you to see this. I can go all the way to the back also if I want to wherever this line comes, so that my object is much bigger. It's like one of those building blocks where you have some small buildings and then you have one huge complex, right? Again, we created 2 points from where we need to draw perspective lines to the vanishing point. Now this is still below the horizon line. So there is still going to be a thin sliver of a surface on top. And it's so thin that mine is just not going to even be visible, but I'm just making it mechanically for the sake of the science. Now when I make the next building, this goes beyond the horizon line. And I still need to make my perspective lines, but I can't make a surface in this space, so I am going to make it here. Okay, was this fine, Palak?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
helpful.
now it's better. Yes.
Okay, now do you want to try to make a couple more that are taller? Just try. All right. I have these two pictures I've shared on the group.
Aditi, since I'm not on the Saturday group, can you forward them all to me?
Oh, sorry. I can. But anyway, it doesn't matter. This one is just for reference. I'll just share it so you can study this for now. Okay, can you identify where the horizon line is here?
The right at the back where the lake or the river, the blue little line.
Yeah, this is where you have the horizon line. And what about this one? It's not very clearly evident. You have to hunt for it. And also there is
Is
some
it with the
distortion.
horse?
Sorry?
In the back of the horse? The carriage?
There is a carriage here? Oh
Yeah,
God, there is a carriage.
sorry. It's right in the middle. Yeah.
Below the
This
tree,
one,
there's
this is the
a
Yeah,
horse.
just
horse.
on the top of the carriage, a building straight line is there.
Yeah, so I think it's somewhere over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now is it easy to see that?
Yeah, yeah, getting a sense. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we have made buildings based on a vanishing point. We have made some features on that. But this is just one part of perspective. In fact, this is called a single point perspective. Now we will move towards something called a two-point perspective. So, two-point perspectives are drawings in which there are two vanishing points, and the object that you are seeing is governed by two sets of perspective lines. So, let's just try to draw this objectively. Let's say this is our horizon line. Like we had a vanishing point right in the center, this time we are going to put vanishing points on two sides. So we have vanishing point 1 and vanishing point 2. As ever, like we started over here, we can start with the edge of an object. So let's make one edge of a box somewhere like this. Now this goes partly above and partly below the horizon line. And on this line, both vanishing points are active, which means that we have perspective lines that can be drawn from vanishing point 1 as well as vanishing point 2. Which means that our two surfaces, like in this case, we had one surface which was subjected to the vanishing points alone. Here, both surfaces, which means this and this, will be distorted. So let's make maybe a line here and some distance on the right. They don't have to be the same distance apart. And we get a shape like this. So when you look at an object, especially a cuboid like this, and look at all the edges on that cube and try to determine if it has a particular angle, and literally you need to be able to see what angle that is from, say, a 0 mark. So as we know, the angles on the right are 5, 10, 15, 20, so on and so forth, going to 90, and then you have the obtuse angle. So you need to be able to see whether this is at like a negative 30, which would be an obtuse 150, so on and so forth. And if you do see two different angles coming and joining each other, that means you have at least two vanishing points. Now say we want to do the same exercise on either side over here. Let's try making a building on the left. So again, draw one edge. But now this edge is also governed by the same vanishing points. So we do the exact same exercise where we connect this line to this point. And if you are comfortable with just drawing it freehand, that's great. If not, you can take any flat surface, even something like a pencil is fine, to give you some guidelines. And you don't have to make the full line, you just make the line that is required for that surface. And somewhere behind over here, that connects and makes the surface on the right. And we have the vanishing lines or perspective lines to create the surface on the left. Now we can do the same thing on the right. Make the edge of that object. Use a scale or a straight object to give you some guideline. And you can do this visually if the distance is not too far. So you get the proper edges. Now let's try making some doors and windows on these three structures. So like we made some molding at one level, suppose we break this up into 2 floors. And this is 1 floor. Where will that molding be? On all 3. Works exactly the same way. So for the building in the center, I have got these 2 points. So I will make the line here. For the building on the left, I have got the left edge, but to get the right edge, I have to go through the same exercise. I have to connect it to the vanishing point. So unfortunately, I'm not going to get one straight line. But here we have kept making horizontal lines. But in the 2-point perspective, each surface and each line on each surface will respond to the perspective lines from one or the other vanishing point. Each surface, all the lines are governed by one vanishing point at a time until you change the angle. Here the angle changes, so here the perspective lines will come from this vanishing point.
Aditi, can you explain this window step again?
Which part?
Like, how did you begin? You put a dot in the middle where we want the window.
Yes. So
And
not
then,
the window. I'm just making a molding or a roof.
okay, yeah. And then you join that dot to the vanishing point, is it?
Vanishing point on the left for the
Yeah.
left surface and
Okay.
right for the right surface, so that I get the line.
Okay, fine. Got it. And then how do we do it for the other two buildings? Same way.
Exactly the same.
But I just choose any dot or the dot from the first line, right?
No, not dot from the first line.
Okay, this first
When we,
building I got. Now next.
yeah, so when we make the dot on the first line and we connect this dot to
Right.
vanishing point 1,
Yeah.
this surface corresponds to the same surface on the building in the back, right?
Hmm.
So if I want to make the roof or the molding line on the same spot in the building behind,
Hmm.
the
Ah.
line that goes from the first
Hmm.
dot to the vanishing point also works for the second building, only on its left surface.
Okay.
But on the right of that particular building, you have to figure out where that line goes. It will not go on
Hmm.
here, but that guidance you get from joining that point to the vanishing point that is active on that surface.
Hmm. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so let's try making a doorway now. Like we had done earlier, make one line. This is the front of the doorway. And this part should remain the same, because we are not using any other surface here, right? So all these points are activated only on the left surface. Now if we want to make this door hollow, for example, then from these points we can join towards the vanishing point 2 and get an edge on the inside, so you can create a hollow space for your door. The moment your surface changes from left facing to right facing, it has other forces acting on it. That's all. And this becomes critical to obey when you are making buildings, because they're all basically just angles, and flat surfaces joining each other, and different forces acting on it, so you get the right guidelines to complete the structure. And they're very objective. So if you ever get lost, you have to just say which side is that vanishing point facing, the surface facing. I have to adhere to that vanishing point, the vanishing point on that side. That's it. You know, obviously nothing happening over here is going to affect the say the vanishing point 1 is not going to affect any of the surfaces on the right. It really doesn't make a difference. Okay, now let's try making windows on top here. Let's make 2 windows, and they're both going to be this tall. And now if you want to draw the right side edge of the inside of the windows, you will connect this to the vanishing point. And to some extent, eventually when you start making the uh, urban sketches, you won't even have to make this too accurately. Okay, now let's try building stairs on this part. And stairs are nothing but different rectangles in receding height kept next to each other. So let's say you have a rectangle whose edge, we can't draw a horizontal line here, whose edge is here, going into a step whose edge is here, and so forth. I've just drawn some lines which are equidistant, that's all. But to get a base of the stairs, again, I will have to draw a line because I'm drawing the left edge of the stairs. That will be affected by vanishing point 1. I will draw a line. So this becomes the base of my stairs. This is the edge of the stairs. And now I'll make a very complicated series of lines from the right. Oh no, actually first from the left. Where does our first step come? Here. This is our first step. I'm just going to make 3. How is the edge of top edge of the second step? And third step. So this is the edge of the 3 steps. Now we need to fill these up, right? So how many points do we need to project out? At each of these points, we need to project outward. So we start from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we get these lines. Which all of them are surfaces where you can easily join the vertical surfaces to some extent. And then the horizontal will always match up with the perspective line coming from the vanishing point on the left. I think this is something that is taught for half a semester in architecture. And I can understand why, because they have to make very precise illustrations since those buildings are going to be built. They can't afford to make illustrations or designs which will not work. So they need to understand all these things and also to understand how each line can be measured and the proportionate distances between all the objects, right? Okay. So are there any questions so far? How well do you feel you have grasped it? I don't want to do much more than this because it will just get more and more confusing. We've done, just to recap, one, we've done a single point perspective and we have done 2-point perspective. In the single point perspective, we are projecting perspective lines from one vanishing point, and they only affect all the surfaces that are towards the vanishing point on paper, right? All the other surfaces, especially the surfaces that are facing the viewer, are kept without being affected by perspective. So that's easy enough to draw. At least you can practice making different boxes where only one perspective is visible. Then we have drawn a slightly more advanced version, which is a 2-point perspective drawing, where we are looking at an object from its edge and we have 2 active vanishing points from where perspective lines are thrown so that you can see an object in 3 dimension with 2 sides of the object being distorted. Right? Now, I can put all theory and words in front of you, but at the end of the day, you just have to play with the lines to start seeing that those lines make sense. And it's almost as if, like when you start learning language, unless you start using the language, you don't know anything about it. You can't understand it, you can't think in it, and you can't communicate in it. So effectively, what I'm giving you right now are the few words that represent perspective, and the more you practice those words, you will start seeing perspective in it, and that's how you will start being able to express perspective to yourself first, and then eventually for someone else. Okay? So just for homeworks, I'm just waiting for you all to ask me questions. We have another 10 minutes. Yeah.
So this picture, like the first picture I have, so if I have to practice now drawing this just perspective lines, so should I just try to find the vanishing point 1 and 2 in that picture and then try to create those lines and build a bit of structure, right?
Are you talking about this, the picture that I've shared, this one?
Yeah, the first one. Yes.
Yeah, so the thing is that the vanishing points are so far out of this picture, you won't even be able to identify them.
They're quite far off. Like if I can see the lines.
Yeah. So they're not going to meet. So in next week's class, I can show you how to draw this by imagining the perspective lines. But do you see the 2 point perspective sketch that we have made
Hmm.
can be employed for this building?
Yes.
Anna?
Hmm.
And in this, are you able to see how where we made the molding, they have a roof, they have two windows on top. Are you able to see the edge that you can draw from where you can throw a perspective line on which you can plot the next lines? Can you see that?
Yes.
That is what the whole exercise is for. That when you look at this, you can say, okay, I can start with this line in front and I know where to go from there. Basically, that's all art is about. We started from this, yes, we started from this. Now, what will you do next? Okay, I know that I have to draw something at this angle, and somewhere this is going to become a perspective line. And how do I get my first surface? By drawing this and this. Can you all imagine yourselves doing this? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. So
Yeah.
now beyond this comes the detailing, which I will show you as we proceed.
Yeah. As well as stairs also on the
There are
side.
stairs also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all there. That's why I chose that picture so that I could do this exercise and I guess prove how in the exercises itself there is a lot of the buildings that you see. So, in my experience, what I find is that when people think of making buildings, they look at the whole building and they don't have a starting point, whether it is modern buildings or whether it is monuments or even like a regular um, tiny store or whatever. You just don't know where to start because you don't know whether when you're drawing a line, um, whether that has to be higher on the page, lower on the page, how tall it should be, how is it going to relate to the rest of the line, excuse me, and where do the rest of the lines come? That is the paralysis. So, the more you do these exercises, you will start seeing the life around you in the lines. So, we are trying to bring two things close together. One is just objectively studying perspective, and the other is observing the world around you. And then you start seeing that if you can overlap these, the more you do one and the other, you'll start seeing lines in reality and reality in the lines that you practice.
Hmm.
That was fun.
Good, good. I know it might have been a little stressful, but are you feeling
Yeah, I enjoyed
that?
the stress. It was fun stress.
It's much
I
better now.
Good, good. I just want to not have any doubts in the foundation. You know how all of the lines work, and you know the reason why those objects look the way they do on paper. Is that clear? That is clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any Dr. मीरा तुमसे काही प्रश्न शिवानी